Hello and welcome to my channel. Today we will be going over one tip for every track in Mario Kart Wii. This guide is really meant to help you get started with online racing. And if you don't know how to do that in 2022 or whenever you're watching this, just check out some of the guides down below. One last note before we begin. Most of these are being done with Funky Kong Flame Runner at 150cc. However, most, if not all, can also be done with Daisy Mach Bike at 150cc. Some of these might be able to be done with other character kart or bike combos and at 100 or even 50cc. I don't know, I'm just using Funky Kong as a baseline. Alright, let's get into it. Alright, so first we have Luigi Circuit in the Mushroom Cup. It's really simple. Right at the end you just want to use a mushroom right through that sand there. You might need more than one. It's good for finishing. Enough said. Let's move on. Alright, so next up is Moo Moo Meadows. This one is also relatively simple. With multiple mushrooms, you can cut through those 2 layers of grass. However, if you only have one, I recommend just doing the simple one. And we have our first bonus tip. You can do what's called a low trick on this ramp at the end by lining up right where the wood of the ramp meets the boost. And that's all for this one. Next up we have Mushroom Gorge, and this is the first one where you might have to put in a bit of practice, but it is very important. This is called the gap cut, and you basically just jump over this gap right here at the end. We will be doing the hopless method because I think it's a little easier, but if you can't get it, you can always try the hop method too. Alright, so as you leave that last mushroom, you want to aim for this flower, and right before you get to the grass, you want to drift left and shroot. And as you go off the edge, fling your joystick to the right. It gives you more air for whatever reason and allows you to do it completely hopless, which is pretty easy because it's less button inputs. You should get this with a little bit of practice. Here's a bonus tip. If you still have mushrooms left after the lap, use them to shroom off the edge and bounce on the mushrooms, then use the last one to go off the ramp there, and then you get what's known as the off-road glitch. Next up is the Toad's Factory Lake Cut, which is pretty similar to the Mushroom Gorge Gap Jump. So you go off the ramp without tricking, then at this first little bump here, you shroom and drift to the right. Once airborne, yank the stick to the left. And, okay, I'm not good enough to do this one, but hopefully you'll be. Okay, next one! Alright, we're done with the fancy stuff for now, and we're here in the Flower Cup on Mario Circuit, and we're just going to do the basic 3-shroom shortcut on the second part of this lap. So we go under the tunnel, use the shrooms to go off-road, hug the wall, and yeah, that's basically it. Saves a little bit of time, but it's the best thing I could find for this track. Alright, next one. Next up is the legendary meme track, Coconut Mall. This is still one of my favorite tracks in the game, despite not having any really crazy shortcuts, but it does have some low tricks, some of which are showing on the screen right now. And at the end, if you take the lower level, it has a really big one. When you go off the speed boost, if you hop to just clip the edge of it with your back tire, you'll get a really satisfying low trick, and it is really fun to do. Alright, next one. And now we head on over to DK Summit for the double cut. It saves a load of time and is really fun to do, but it is pretty tricky and requires some practice. So let's go over what you should be doing when you go for this double shortcut. So for this shortcut, the approach is actually pretty important. You don't want to be going super fast here. You want to slow down a little bit first. So you can use hops to wrap around the guardrail and land on the next one. Pick up a little bit of speed and have room to drift and hop to the left, using it kind of as a makeshift ramp to launch yourself up. Hold down the joystick to tail dive, and you should land right back on the track. Fortunately, if you don't do everything perfect, you should still get a good respawn right at the bottom of the hill, and you won't lose that much time. So for Wario's Gold Mine, I couldn't really find anything that interesting aside from this one shortcut right at the beginning where you use a mushroom to land at the bottom of the bridge. It's faster than the normal way for the same reason as the Rainbow Road Moon Jump, but still situational nonetheless. Starting off the Star Cup with Daisy Circuit, we have one that's more about how you should approach it than one that's more of a crazy trick. So for this one, you want to take that last turn on the raised platform because it's a tighter line, and then trap it on lap 1 if you're in first place. So then, on the second lap, you want to see if your trap is still there, And if not, then on lap 3, you should be pretty safe to take this shortcut again. Next up is Koopa Cave, which is home to a pretty cool 3-shroom shortcut. For the first one, you want to take it wide so you can avoid that tree like I did. And then for the second one, you want to shroom and cut off that part, head for the rocks, and then go behind the red shell to avoid item traps. Maple Treeway has one of the most unique mechanics in Mario Kart Wii, which is the leaf piles. When you or a CPU runs over it, it'll drop an item like a banana or a green shell. But it could also drop a mushroom or a star. So just be looking around to make sure that it is a mushroom or a star to help you come back a little easier. Like right there were just 4 mushrooms lying there. Next up is one of my favorite shortcuts in Mario Kart Wii, the Groma Volcano Rock Hop. What you want to do is align for the diamond I'm facing now, shroom and wheelie off the edge to try to land on the rock, and then if you get stuck like I did, you can just shroom again, watch out for the edge, and then you should be able to get right back on the track. So you can even do it better by only having to use 1 mushroom. However, on lap 3, the rock is not there, so you do what's called the lava respawn, where you just shroom and wheelie off the edge and try to get as far as possible to the other side. And if you do it correctly, you'll be on the other side, still saving quite a few seconds over just going around the normal way. And we're not done with crazy shortcuts yet. In addition to the wall clip and infamous ultra shortcut, Dry Dry Ruins also has, in my opinion, the coolest 3-shroom shortcut. At the end of the lap, after exiting the temple, you want to kind of head to the left and use the terrain as a makeshift ramp to shroom and launch yourself onto the ridge, where you'll then use your other 2 mushrooms and then exit between the rock and the palm tree, saving quite a bit of time. Next up is Moonview Highway, which is home to a pretty cool load trick. When doing this trick, you want to head into the ramp like normal, but at the last second, you want to kind of hop and drift to the side so that you're parallel with the ramp, and then when you trick off of it, it should just push you right back into the ground. But it's not a huge time loss if you fail it either, so yeah. Next up is Bowser's Castle, which is home to one of, if not the most difficult shortcuts on this list, the infamous half-pipe glitch. So for this one, you want to slow to a crawl, line up for the 2 bolts that I've shown, and then as you go off the boost and become airborne, you want to tilt the stick back and use a mushroom to clip through the wall. This one takes a ton of practice, so be patient when practicing. For the last nitro track, we have the Rainbow Road Moon Jump, and this one is faster than just going on the ground because of how steep the slope is. Going in air is actually faster than going on the track. So let's dig into how you do this one. So to do this one, you want to shroom as you pass this pole, and you want to hop about half a second later, tilt back on the control stick to do a tail dive, which gives you the most air possible, and you should land right in front of the zipper. And there is a method that you can do that saves a little more time as it'll land you on the zipper, but this one still saves a little bit of time and is worth attempting if you have the mushroom. It's not that big of a deal if you fail it though. Starting off the retro tracks, in the Shell Cup, we have GCN Peach Beach, and this tip is more about what you don't want to do than what you should do. Never, ever, ever go the left way. It is so much slower than going the right way. And if you fail that jump, you might land in the water like I did. Next up with DS Yoshi Falls, we have the waterfalls. And you always want to take the first and third ones because it's about the same time as the top route, but gets you an item. The second one, only do if you have a mushroom. And the third one, you want to hit the speed boost to save a little more time before going onto it. That's about it for this one. Next up is SNES Ghost Valley 2. Everybody knows about the ramp that skips the third turn. But if you have a mushroom, you can drift, trick, and then mushroom right before you leave the platform to go a little farther down and save even more time. And it's really fun to do this one. Next up on N64 Mario Raceway, we have yet another 3-shroom shortcut. First, you want to take the turn wide so you can shroom through the grass, then shroom through the sand and try to make it to the road. The third one, you want to do a load trick by tricking right on the very edge of that, and then shrooming through the grass right to the finish line. Kicking off the Banana Cup, we have N64 Sherbet Land, and for this one we are doing the pole clip ultra shortcut, the 3 shroom variant. I'm just kidding, of course not. The real trick to getting a good score on this one every single race is actually in your character kart combo. You want to use Toadette Magic Cruiser, as that gives you the highest off-road stat. And that's important because this track the entire time actually has a slight off-road effect in addition to the slippery handling. And this actually makes you faster than all the Funky Kong Flame Runners and Daisy Mock Bikes in your lobby and will win you many free races. The same logic actually applies to the next one, GBA Shy Guy Beach, except in a different way. The road itself does not have an off-road effect, but the road is bordered by that light water, and you can take even tighter lines with Toadette Magic Cruiser because the water will not have a effect on your speed at all. So you can be much faster than every other player in your lobby and win more free races. And as an added bonus, this one also has those little bumper ramps, which can be low tricked by hopping up to it with the B button if you're nunchuck, or R if you're on classic controller, and then tricking. Next up is DS Delfino Square, where we will talk about the dock shortcut. This one is important because it can be done every lap, but also trapped easily, so you have to know what you're doing when you're doing it. So for this one, the setup is really important. You want to be at the perfect angle, which it really takes practice to figure out what that is, but you line up right so that you barely hit the grass and then just trick off of the ramp there. It does not slow you down at all, but again, the angle is very important so that you don't go falling into the water. It's important to know that people like to trap this one, so you might want to avoid a trap by hopping further into the grass to get a farther line down the dock. Also, if you have multiple mushrooms, you can do the double by going in between the trees, shrooming, tricking, and lining up right for the mud cut, where you will use your second shroom to come out the other side, probably in the lead. It's very good. Next up is GCN Waluigi Stadium, and this one has my favorite low trick in the entire game. It's very fun to pull off. So after you do this first turn and second turn and go off that ramp and then do the U-turn, you have that big ramp that launches you into the air. But what you can do is you can line it up so that you hit the invis wall after going in midair, and it'll just put you back to the ground, but you still get your boost, and it's really cool. However, if you have a mushroom, I actually recommend using the left invisible wall to low trick so that you can use your mushroom to go through the mud at the bottom and get a really good lead. Starting off the Leaf Cup, we have DS Desert Hills, and let me go on a bit of a rant here before we get into the tip. I have no idea why they put this one in here. This and Yoshi Falls are my 2 least favorite tracks in the game. They really, if they wanted one from DS that was about this difficulty, they should have just done Waluigi Pinball. And if they wanted a cool desert track, they could have done Dry Dry Desert from Double Dash. But yeah, it's in here. So here's the trick. It's another 3 shroom shortcut, and it's the hills at the end. So wrapping around this turn right here, you want to just shroom into it. You'll get launched into the air, try to land on the second one, shroom again, and then for the third one, you can go over that little bank right there and right to the finish line. Next up is a very important one. This one is the GBA Bowser Castle 3 shortcut, and this one is if not the most important ones that you should learn on this list, as it is pretty easy but saves a whole lot of time. So let's get into what you should do. So you'll be doing the jump off the last island, so that means on the second to last one you do not want to trick off that ramp, and you want to aim right for, on the second row, the line that I'm at right now. Then you want to aim so that Funky Kong's head is to the middle right of that block that you jump over, and then shroom, and you should be right over. It's pretty simple. Next up is one of the more difficult tracks in the game, DK's Jungle Parkway. It doesn't really have any crazy shortcuts until the very end. In the cave, you can shroom through that off-road section. You'll most likely bump into the wall, so you should probably bring more than one shroom. But yeah, that's it for this one. Next up is GCN Mario Circuit. This one is kind of in the same vein as Moo Moo Meadows, where it has a big shroom shortcut right at the beginning of the lap. So as long as you can hold first for a lap, this one can get you some free wins. go to the right of the 2 trees, shroom, and then hop over that little bank there to get back on the road while preserving your speed. Starting off the final cup of the game, the Lightning Cup, we have SNES Mario Circuit 3, and this one is kind of in the same vein as Wii's Mario Circuit, and that is that it has a 3-shroom shortcut that just allows you to take a tighter line. Nothing too fancy here, but after the hairpin turn, you'll notice that behind those pipes, there's a bigger section of off-road. You just want to shroom through that, and then turn before shrooming again, or else you'll bump into the wall, and then the final shroom goes through the little wall in the bricks there. If you only have one shroom, you just want to do the last part. There's one more track in the game with a big shortcut right at the beginning, and that just happens to be DS Peach Gardens. You just want to use your shroom to go through the flower bed there and come out on the other side. Bonus tip, you want to go behind those square flower beds as it saves even more time. Next up is one that is in the same vein as GBA Bowser Castle 3. This is the DK Mountain Turn Skip. This one is pretty important, but it's also pretty easy, and it's probably the first one you should learn out of all these on the list. So let's dig into how you should do this one. So for this one, the turn leading up is very important. You want to start wide and drift tight like I'm doing here. You want to release the mini turbo without using it by releasing A before B, and then you want to go and use your hops to just wrap around the fence there. Still not going too fast or you fall into the abyss, but yeah, you should land there. And also, if you're in first in a race and second is close behind, you might want to take it even a little slower so that you can snag every item box, and then second place won't get an item. That happened to me once when I was the person in second, and I don't know how I didn't get Mario Karted on this bridge here. Alright, final course, N64 Bowser's Castle. So for this one, we're doing the rail shortcut, and you want to try to land it from the top if the lava isn't in the way, so you can watch out for items. But if it's not, then that's okay. You're skipping the final turn, and that's really good. Just try not to fall into the lava or bump it to the wall while getting off. And yeah, that's every track in the game. If you really enjoyed them, please do all the YouTube stuff on your way out. I'm really experimenting with YouTube to see if I enjoy making videos, but I am working on ranking every round in Fall Guys. Also, if you want a more in-depth guide on how to do some of the trickier tricks in this video, then I would highly recommend checking out ArcIntel's videos, as he goes really in-depth and is basically where I learned how to do most of these. Once again, thank you for watching and have a good one.